Y nuestro próximo invitado, que llega desde Europa, forma parte de Aave, que además es uno de nuestros sponsors. Y en la página web de Aave nos cuentan que eso es una palabra finlandesa, que tiene un significado, se traduce como fantasma en inglés, ¿no? Y en español, obviamente. El fantasma representa el enfoque de Aave de crear una infraestructura transparente y abierta para las finanzas descentralizadas, según ellos lo definen allí en su página en internet. Le voy a dar la bienvenida a esta nueva conferencia que es en inglés. Welcome, Stani Kulechov. How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. Are you in the UK? I'm right?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm now in Spain,
In
but
Spain.
our office is in UK. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. In Spain, but you are talking in English, so this conference will be in English. Thank you, and we are hearing you.
Awesome. So yeah, so basically, my name is Stani Kulechov. I'm the CEO and founder of Aave, and Aave is basically a money market protocol on Ethereum where you can deposit funds and earn. And we're going to talk today a bit on DeFi in general and unlocking value in DeFi and what we're doing in the space. So DeFi is one of the kind of like a now popular applications in the blockchain ecosystem, especially in Ethereum. It's getting quite popular in that sense. And today we're going to show a bit what people are doing in Aave and how they're using our protocol. And of course, if there's developers as well here who want to build new financial products, this could be a very interesting presentation for you as well. So in very simplistic form in Aave, so we as a protocol, that means that we have a smart contract codes that has been deployed into the Ethereum ecosystem, and anyone can interact with them in a permissionless form. That means that anyone can for example, deposit, borrow, or even build things in a permissionless fashion on chain. And the very typical way how we structure the protocol is that you can create different kinds of markets in Aave. So one market is basically a place where you have different kinds of reserves that you can deposit. And when you deposit into these reserves, you are earning interest. So one money market that we have is the main Aave money market, where you can deposit, for example, stable coins, Ethereum, wrapped Ethereum, and other assets such as Link, Land, and so forth that we actually have listed into the protocol. And the idea here is that pretty much people have fiat currencies or lack of assets into fiat currencies. And this is a way to earn interest on cryptographic dollars, which are in practice stable coins. So when you deposit into Aave, for example, DAI, USDC, or USDT, a credit line is open to you, and you are able to borrow other funds, for example, ETH, WBTC, and same vice versa. If you deposit ETH, you can borrow, for example, stable coins. So the idea is that if you are in a position where you're holding cryptocurrencies but you don't want to sell them, you could actually borrow stable coins and then later convert to real assets, real currencies, and spend them out in real life. So it's a way to unlock liquidity. And then other features we have is a flash loan, which I'm going to introduce a bit more in depth. So DeFi itself is kind of, I mean, the way DeFi, decentralized finance, where you measure the kind of like a success of a protocol is basically upon what is the amount of value your smart contracts are holding. Now, if you go to a survey website called defipulse.com, there is a metric called TVL, which is total locked value, and total locked value means how much of funds your smart contract are holding. So how much people are trusting your smart contracts. And currently, Aave has been recently one of the biggest DeFi protocols around. Now we're somewhere in 1.5 billion worth of value locked, which is pretty amazing in the sense that we started the protocol back in January this year from completely zero. And since then, we just have grown exponentially to the stage we are. And this is very fascinating, not just to the public, but also for the Aave team, because we didn't expect this kind of a growth. But it's very interesting to see actually that how people are using Aave and earning interest. And also a big portion of the growth is based on the fact that there is a lot of developers that are building on top of Aave. So for example, they might build different kinds of products and services where they are utilizing Aave, either deposit optimization or, for example, might be related to borrowing. So you could one of the parts of DeFi is the fact that there's like interoperability and composability. So you can permissionlessly create anything, any part of the world, new products, and use, for example, Aave and other DeFi protocols to build something new. And that is very, very cool and fascinating. So yeah, so the main market that we have, it's pretty simple. So you have different kinds of stable coins, and you can deposit them and earn interest. And pretty much what our users are doing, they're depositing DAI, USDC, TrueUSD, USDT, and then they're basically getting interest back on their assets. And on the other hand, you can borrow the same currencies if you deposit something else like Tether, Ethereum or WBTC. So it's a so-called like pooled money market where we have this reserves and part of the reserves are borrowed out. So since there's always more liquidity, means that there's always more deposits than borrowings. It means you can always withdraw your funds unless there is a situation which is so-called bank run, where all the deposits are drawn out of there, which is very, very edge and rare situation in that sense. We opened recently a new money market where you could actually use your, if you're providing liquidity to Uniswap, for example, you're providing DAI ETH liquidity to Uniswap, you could use actually, when you deposit to Uniswap, you get back liquidity provider shares, and you could use those shares as a collateral in Aave. And in practice, this means that you're providing liquidity in Uniswap, and then you can borrow from Aave stable coins to invest in something else, for example. So in the future, we'll see more this kind of like a markets where you could use, for example, Balancer, you could use Set Protocol and a bunch of other kind of like assets that are derivative assets. And this is like a very interesting part of the whole DeFi composability. And one of the next money markets we have is the token set money market, and there's going to be a bunch of other ones. The interesting part is that we're upgrading our protocol into version 2, which allows pretty cool new features. So you could practically swap your collateral position from, let's say, from Ethereum to Land or to Link and so forth. And also you could refinance your loan. So if you borrowed, let's say, DAI, and the cost of capital in DAI is higher than compared to USDC, you could swap your debt from USDC into DAI without returning your loan back. So these kind of like user features are quite fascinating. Yeah, this particular slide shows quite well. I think this is just one of the 10 of what has been built on top of Aave or who are using the Aave protocol. Many of these projects are on top, so they might have some sort of a functionality that they're using Aave. For example, it might be options or derivatives platform that is depositing the collateral into Aave, and borrowing and providing some service, and for example, if they want to lower the cost of capital. And there is quite big ecosystem at the moment, and it's growing every day. And I think we'll see more in the future. Many interesting projects will be born, and also some of these composability things are integrations. For example, you could use MyEther wallet. So from MyEther wallet, you could directly access to Aave and deposit and start earning. And there's other wallets such as Alpha Wallet, for example. So it just shows like how big the ecosystem actually is. Yeah. So one of the coolest part, what we have in Aave is so-called aTokens. So aTokens in essence is a permissionless savings account. So what is the typical problem that people face is that, let's say if you're in country, for example, in somewhere Latin America, and you have a local currency there that is fluctuating a lot. We could imagine, for example, the local currency Argentina has a lot of fluctuations, and saving on a currency that has a lot of inflation is very difficult, and also trusting banks to save your funds is quite difficult in many still countries. And what aTokens are is factually when you deposit, let's say, DAI into Aave, you will get in return a DAI, so 1:1 ratio, and that a DAI is practically a interest-bearing token, which means that it grows in the balance algorithmically. So if you deposited 100 DAI into Aave and you get 100 a DAI back into your wallet, what happens is that that a DAI balance will grow algorithmically in your wallet as you are earning more and more every second in the protocol. And this is amazing thing because it means that virtually you have an access to a permissionless USD nominated savings account that fights the USD inflation. So let's say instead of holding stable coins to avoid local inflation in your country, you could actually be holding aTokens, which means that you are not just holding the USD currency per se, but you're also holding the interest rate that is coming up. So that's a pretty cool thing. And if you send aTokens to someone else, to your friend, the interest earning still continues. So you could decide how much you send. So for example, if you send 50 aDAI to your friend from that 100 aDAI, it means that once your friend gets the 50 aDAI, it starts to increase in her balance. So this is very, very fascinating way to save money abroad. And I think that's something that I recommend everyone to read more about. Yeah, and the cool part is also that you can redirect the interest to someone else. So you could keep the aDAI, but every interest you earn, you could redirect it to some other address as well. So that's an interesting feature, especially if you're building something on top of Aave. That might be quite fascinating. Yeah, and I think there's other interest-bearing tokens in the Ethereum ecosystem, but what makes aTokens pretty fascinating is that it's actually fun to see your balance grow, and it mimics kind of the experience that you have in banks, like when you see your bank account balance grow and once you receive interest rate. So that's the kind of cool part. And yeah, so we have different kinds of aTokens. So these are the assets that you can deposit into Aave, and all of the assets are generating somewhat yields to you. So this is the ecosystem of aTokens. And what's interesting about aTokens is that you don't actually need to deposit to Aave to have this interest-bearing account. You just could even buy aTokens from someone, or you could buy them from Paraswap or some other DEX aggregator, or from Uniswap. And what happens is that you actually then you are in possession of this savings account. So this is quite quite cool stuff that you can do in DeFi. And the utilization of aTokens has grown quite substantially. So we have more and more people using aTokens. This is a snapshot from a couple of weeks ago from the Dune analytics of Gnosis Safe, which is a multi-signature wallet. And it shows how much actually the aTokens are held in custody. So it's becoming also interesting tool to earn yields for institutionals and not just retail users. So that's quite cool. Another feature that we have besides aTokens. So the aTokens and flash loan that I'm introducing now is also part of the unlocking value narrative. So at Aave, even though like we have a lot of value locked in the smart contracts, we are trying to find ways how we could unlock that value and reutilize it. And aTokens reutilizes in a way that your aTokens are always worth what you deposit and the interest earned. So you can use that value anywhere else, like as a collateral. And then you have the ability to do flash loans, which is another feature. So what's interesting about flash loans is that as the markets at Aave are over kind of like a collateralized, there is always 75% of value that is not borrowed and only 25% is borrowed. That means that we have roughly that 1.5 billion worth of value in the smart contracts without any utilization. So what you can do is you can borrow without any collateral. Technically from Aave, all the amount that we have in the reserve, all that 1.5 billion, or the amount that you actually prefer. And what's cool about this is that it's possible because you're relying on Ethereum atomicity and how blocks are sealed. So in Ethereum, every block has a maximum amount of gas that block can spend, and there's transactions, and every transaction might have nested transactions. So flash loans is a developer tool where someone could build a way of transaction where it borrows from Aave a flash loan, one currency, and it buys another currency in Uniswap and sells it in Kyber, for example, and returns the flash loans and keeps the profit. And this all happens in one transaction. So it's a kind of like a way of developers to build tools for end users. And this is cool because as a depositor, when you deposit funds into Aave, there is roughly dozens and dozens of flash loans happening each day. And some of them are in the size of, for example, 15 million. And what it does, it brings actually new fee, like generates fees to the Aave depositors, which in practice means that every time there is a flash loan, you earn more as a depositor if that currency is borrowed, which is pretty typical, for example, with DAI. And developers can create interesting features on top of this functionality. Some of the features are, for example, being able to refinance your loan. So if you deposited, let's say, lend into Aave and you borrowed DAI, and you see that USDC is much cheaper at the moment. So what's like interesting there is that if you already use those funds and you spend them somewhere, but there's opportunity to refinance, what a developer could do is build a tool where when you click a button, a flash loan has taken from Aave in DAI, the loan is repaid, and then a new loan is opened with USDC with a lower interest. So basically, you're refinancing your loan without returning the capital, and that is super interesting use case. And yeah, as Aave has grown, the flash loan volume has grown itself quite substantially. So I think over the time, as the protocol is growing, there's more funds that could be borrowed. And this also means that some of the borrowings are becoming bigger and bigger. And this is very, very fascinating in that sense. And yeah, I mean, over the time, I think this is going to continue to be fascinating tool for end users and developers to build new products. And I think over the time we will see something more interesting stuff being built with the flash loans. Yeah, and one interesting part about Aave and the unlocking value narrative is that we have functionality to delegate credit, and this means that normally when you deposit into Aave, you're earning the interest, but you're not borrowing yourself. So what we figured out in Aave, that what you could actually do is you could delegate your credit to someone else, someone you trust, or to a smart contract. And what basically happens in this particular case is that that entity can actually borrow behalf of you and pay you more interest. And for that person, you could even do a legal agreement to seal the relationship, or you could just delegate it to a smart contract that is doing some predefined functions. For example, we have one community called YEarn, and they have a vault where you can delegate your credit in there. And what happens in this scenario is that they basically borrow USDC from Aave, and currently the borrowing amount in total is 20 million worth of USDC. So it's quite a fascinating development in the space, and I am expecting this to grow quite a lot. It's a nice tool for the depositors to earn more funds. And I could imagine the future, let's say if you're depositing ETH and you could delegate credit to traditional financial institutions that could actually source their liquidity from DeFi by borrowing stable coins at a cheap price, converting to fiat, and these financial institutions could lend out the funds further. So there's a very good value proposition here. And yeah, it's quite simple in this case. You could even like delegate to a friend that you know is doing some trading activity and so forth. And when you're delegating to a smart contract that is doing some functions, there is not much credit risk in the sense that the smart contract can be verified on what kind of functions it's supposed to do, and if those functions doesn't allow this kind of like a credit event, then it means that you could safely delegate your credit to and earn extra interest on that. Yep. And this has been now used quite widely in actually in yield farming and that kind of stuff. And one of the coolest part I wanted to touch base as well is the Aavenomics. So Aavenomics is the tokenomics of the Aave protocol. So Aave is decentralized protocol, so it runs autonomously in the blockchain, and anyone can execute the calls in the protocol. But what is interesting about Aave is that and the protocol is that it's governed by the LEND token holders, which basically after our migration that is coming now in a couple of weeks. And what's interesting here is that when the token holders are making decisions in Aave, they're practically making risk-based decisions, which means that they can decide upon adding new assets into the protocol. They can decide upon changing the loan-to-value ratios, risk parameters, and whatnot. And when they're doing this kind of like risk decision making, they're also taking the risk transfer of. Yeah, they're taking the risk transfer of the protocol. This means that the Aave token holders either passively take the risk or actively by staking into the safety module that we have in the Aavenomics. And this means that if there is some sort of like a shortfall event in the protocol, for example, failed liquidations, hack, smart contract bug, those staked funds could be slashed up to 30% and compensated the protocol. And also, if it's not enough, there is a minting facility, a protocol recovery facility that actually then can mint more And also there's a built-in backstop module that's in stablecoins that sets a bidding order to buy back those minted or slashed tokens. So this is quite fascinating because the narrative is that we want to focus more on the providing safe protocol, and that way providing kind of like insurance for the depositors and increase the adoption. Of course, we have also liquidity provider incentives that we are planning to announce. But what's cool about those is that the idea of them is that if you provide liquidity and receive Aave, you can actually bridge your Aave into the protocol safety module and earn more. So then the governance, the token holders, liquidity providers, incentives are aligned towards building more safe protocol. And for us, next steps, so we are now moving to this decentralized governance, which is pretty cool. So LEND token will be migrated to Aave, and then the control will be transferred to the protocol holders. And we have now discussion on the incentives actually in governance.aave.com. And yeah, and of course, we're planning to release new money markets. And if you want to build on Aave, docs.aave.com or Discord. And of course, we also are planning to release our version 2, which has a bunch of cool features. I recommend to follow what we are doing. And yeah, and we are the Avengers in our community. Yeah, so if you want to join our Telegram, here's a QR code. And I hope you everyone had a very good time on listening. I'm a very quick presentation, but there's a lot of things happening at Aave, and I recommend everyone to get involved, participate in the governance, and really Aave is one of the interesting places and open places to actually contribute into the DeFi ecosystem. And we have also Spanish-speaking staff and groups, so everything seems to be very kind of like easier in that sense. So yeah, thank you everyone, and I really had a very fun time presenting to you.
Thank you, Stani. Thank you for sharing this conference with us. See you. Bye bye. Bueno, nosotros volvemos aquí a Montevideo, Uruguay. Estábamos en España porque nos contó que estaba en España Stani, desde donde brindó esta conferencia en inglés. Vamos a ir a una breve pausa. Después venimos con el primer panel, un panel desde diferentes lugares del mundo. Ya se los vamos a contar.